Welcome to the Young America Podcast. This episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of church and, well, I guess how it started. So, Licky, how did it start?
Well, depends on how far back you want to go, but we can start with very sort of the events leading up to the beginning.
Sounds like a good idea.
Talk about the Last Supper, Jesus' Last Supper.
There you go.
And basically, that's the last meal that he ever had on earth before his crucifixion. So he was speaking with his disciples, and that's when he said that one of his disciples, well, a lot of things happened at that Last Supper, but that was one of the, also when he said, one of you is going to betray me. And they were all asking him, the 12 disciples were asking him, well, who is it going to be? Who is it? Oh, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? You know? And then he said, this is always mind-blowing to me too. But he said, the verse is something like, I'm going to dip this sop, and whoever I give it to,
it's going to be the one.
That's the one who's going to betray me. And he dips the bread in the oil or whatever, and he gives it to Judas.
And it all just goes right over their head.
It's like, they just totally over their head. Yeah. No idea. Anyways, so a few minutes later, Judas gets up and he goes to the Pharisees and says, hey, I can tell you where Jesus is if you give me 30 pieces of silver. So they sold him for 30 pieces of silver, and then we go back. While that's happening, we can go back to the Last Supper. So does Jesus wash their feet before or after that?
So Jesus washes their feet before, yeah. And then I think they eat.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess Judas goes and betrays him.
Yeah.
But
and then they...
Yeah, and then...
Yep. And then after that happened... Go ahead.
Oh, after that happened, let's see. They're in the garden, and Jesus obviously is praying, and he asked his disciples to come and pray with him. That's actually a good point to make, is to have, if you get some friends that you can pray with and can count on. I guess not like the disciples, because obviously they weren't very good. They fell asleep and weren't really helpful. But anyone, it happens to us all. We all can, get tired and all that stuff. But if we can get some friends, and
we're humans,
right, exactly,
just like the disciples were.
But get some friends that we can depend on and count on, and just pray with them and talk to God. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Jesus did it.
Help each other do right.
Jesus did it. He was talking to his Father. Yeah. So how much more should we do it when we're human? So anyways,
I was gonna say we need it a lot more.
Oh, a lot more. He was perfect. We are definitely far from it. But so anyways, Jesus was praying, and he prays like 3 different times, and he asked God for this cup to pass from him. And I don't necessarily think that it was meaning he doesn't want to die, or that he doesn't want to go through all this pain and stuff. But I believe that the cup was, once Jesus had died on the cross, he didn't want his Father to turn his face or turn his back on him. And I think that's what I think, what he meant by this cup not passing or whatever. But anyways, they get done praying, and
that would be the hardest part,
right?
Of it.
Everyone,
think about it,
right?
You're dying, and then your Father abandons you too.
Yeah, I would.
So
yeah, it's just an amazing thing that happened. But
yeah.
Anyways, the Judas gets there with all the soldiers and the Pharisees, or I don't know if the Pharisees showed up or not. I don't think they would have.
I can look it up.
But
it's a nice thing about this Bible app. One thing that's always incredible to me is when they ask, "We're looking for Jesus of Nazareth," and the first time he says, "I am he," and they all fall over.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Poof, and they fall
Like,
over.
what?
There we go. John 18. Yeah, let's see. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went forth to the garden. Hang on. Okay, so verse 3. Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, cometh thither with lanterns and torches and weapons. So he came.
So what it sounds like is the Pharisees sent soldiers,
the officers and the chief
officers,
priests and the Pharisees. Yeah. And that's crazy because they come with their lanterns and their torches and their weapons, and they're like ready for war.
Yeah.
And it's just Jesus and his disciples. Now Peter,
Yeah,
Peter's ready for war.
Well, the thing is,
drew his sword out. Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, Jesus, he didn't put up a fight. He didn't, he could have definitely, he could have demolished those dudes like
he knocked them all down.
Well, I think he's like just to do that, just to show that he could. But
yeah,
he willingly gave himself up. They didn't take him by force. He willingly gave himself, and I think that's important. Jesus was not forced to die on the cross. He did it willingly for you and for me. So that's very important. But anyways, they take him, and
that was his purpose in coming in the first place.
Right, exactly. So they took him, and they gave him a phony trial, whatever, and
multiple times.
Oh yeah,
he bounced around a lot of judges,
Mm-hmm. And then, well, they couldn't find anything to accuse him of because he was perfect. So they had to pay some dudes to come lie about him, and finally their stories lined up or whatever.
They couldn't get the story straight either.
Yeah. So, and then they take him to Pilate, and Pilate even says that there's nothing wrong that he's done, and so he's willing to let him go. But he, lets Barabbas go instead, and he says, "Well, just to appease the people, we'll beat Jesus or whatever." And so that's what they do,
right?
And so they beat him, and then after that, they're like, Pilate's like, "What do you guys want now?" He's like, "Crucify him." And so he washes his hands of this crucifixion, and but anyways, they put him on the cross.
I always wonder what Pilate thought afterwards, because even his wife came to him and was like, "This is a bad idea, don't do it," but he did it anyway.
So,
and also another thing that's interesting to me is Pilate says right before he gives him back to the Pharisees or the guards or whatever to go crucify him, he says, "What is truth?" And I always wonder, like, was he searching for truth and he had given up by this point?
Yeah, possibly.
Or what? Like, how that all played out. It just is like a very powerful thing to me because Jesus is standing right there in front of him. Jesus is the truth.
Exactly.
And yet he's too blind to see it. Yeah. And he's the one who condemned him to crucifixion.
Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting side note, if you will. Not everyone knows this, which is actually kind of cool thing, but I found this out. So, the Romans, right? They're cruel people, whatever. You go back in history, you look at that, they're really cruel people. But if you were a Roman soldier, you would serve whatever, and if you were, your time was up, you're done serving, and if you didn't have any land, any family, or like anything to your possessions, they would play a game called King for the Day. And so that Roman soldier that was retiring or whatever would be a king for the day. They would do whatever he asked them to. He was king, supposedly. But anyways, but by the end of the day, they would kill him because he has nothing to do or, nowhere to go. So they would kill him.
He's not worth anything anymore.
Well, yeah. But then unless that person could find a substitute for him, then they would kill that substitute instead of him. So there's a possibility that a soldier could have, been retiring that day or whatever, and they found Jesus, and so they're like, hey, we can substitute for Jesus, and Jesus will die in his place, which I find is interesting enough because he obviously takes the place of us all.
Yeah.
But for that person specifically, he actually did it.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting. But so anyways, the soldiers make fun of Jesus. They give him a purple robe, and they give him a crown of thorns, and they smash that crown of thorns on his head. And I mean, you just got to imagine the kind of pain that Jesus was in. He'd been whipped countless times.
It's like being scalped slowly,
basically, and then getting thorns. We have a thorn bush. When I was in Africa, we had a thorn bush. That stupid thing. Oh, it was awful. We had to cut it. It would grow so fast. The thorns were massive. You get poked. You're like, oh. But
we have a bunch of trees like that in the backyard.
Yeah. Just imagine that going down into your head, all around your head. It hurts.
Like I said, it's like being scalped slowly. It digs in and doesn't go away.
Yeah. So they did that, and then they took the robe off, and they made him carry his own cross, and I'm sure that was exciting too, with all the splinters and everything with the raw back, because you've been beaten so much. So they pointed out a guy and had him carry it up to the Calvary, and
because Jesus couldn't make it all the way.
So, and then they crucified him, but if you look in the Bible, it tells you, the events that happened, and it must have been really something there, though, because the sky just went completely dark when Jesus died. The sky went dark. There was like an earthquake almost. I guess it was an earthquake, but I mean, when it's just amazing because nature itself realized that the Creator had
the rock split,
right,
and the veil rent,
but
it's very awesome.
Yeah, they realized
it was something that's interesting to me is the centurion.
Who
said, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Even he figured it out.
Yeah, he realized like, hey, something's happening here. But there's So, anyways, then what's his face? Joseph of Arimathea had a tomb that they put Jesus in, and they brought spices and herbs and all that stuff to I guess prevent the stench of death. And so they put Jesus in the tomb after they cleaned him up a little bit, and then 3 days later he arose just like he said, and he conquered the grave and he conquered death. So Christ, he came and he died for our place, and he did it for us. He came to take the sin of the world, and that right there is an amazing thing.
No one else could do it.
No, exactly.
Except for God.
He's the only perfect one. He's the only one that could have done it, and he willingly did it out of love for you and for me, for all of us. And it just blows my mind every stinking time I think about it. It's like, wow, God really loves me, and it just blows my mind. But so, anyways,
after that,
So after that,
after he raises from the dead, he visits his. Well, first he appears to the four. I think it was four.
Yeah, I think it was
four women in the garden, and they get excited and they run and tell the disciples, and the disciples didn't quite believe him.
Yeah.
And so, but anyways, so then John and Peter go and run to the tomb and find it empty. Yep. So then they're like, "Huh, must be true." So then they run back to the disciples and tell them. And then, does Jesus appear right after that, or does he wait a few days? I can't remember. I don't know if it says. Yeah. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst, and saith unto them, Peace be unto you. So, the same day that he rose from the dead, all the disciples are in what we call the upper room, and they have all the doors and all the windows shut, and everything's locked, because they're afraid the Jews are going to come in and kill them for following him. And then Jesus just shows up in the midst of them and says, Here I am, peace be unto you, don't freak out.
Yeah.
It's just me. And what's interesting, for some reason, all of them are there except for Thomas. And so Jesus comes and he eats with them, proving that he is really human. He's not a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then Thomas shows up after Jesus leaves, and they're like, Dude, Thomas, Jesus showed up. And he's like, What? He's like, unless I put my hand in the prints of his hand, in the nail scars,
holes,
and thrust my hand in his side where the Roman stabbed him with the spear, then I'll believe. So then later, Jesus shows up again, and Thomas is there, and Jesus says, like, touch me, Thomas. Here I am. Look, you can put your finger in my hand. And Thomas says, let's see, I have it right here. It's 8 days later. Then saith he unto Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Lord and my God. So all Thomas had to do was see him to realize how wrong he had been, that Jesus had actually resurrected from the dead. But that's like the beginning stages. So then, after that, Jesus appears to some people on the road, going back to their house from Jerusalem, and appears to them, and he appears to several other groups. And then we get to the beginning of Acts. So they go to the Mount of Olives, and this is the last time that Jesus appears on earth. And this is when I believe Jesus gives the Great Commission.
Yep, that's when he does it.
So Jesus gives the Great Commission to go into all the world and teach the nations about him and about what he's done. And then he ascends up into heaven in the clouds and tells them that he will come back. And then the disciples are kind of feel helpless and don't know what to do because their leader is gone. And so they're back in the upper room during the Jewish feast of Pentecost. And that is when Jesus sends the Comforter, as he calls it. Here in John 16, verse 7, it says, Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. So when Jesus departs at the day of Pentecost, that's when he sends the Holy Spirit down. And there's the flames of fire above their heads, and they start speaking in tongues. And that's Peter's first message in the day the church started. I believe it says, let's see. Hang on. It's Acts 2:41.
Acts 2.
There was 3,000 souls, was it? Then they that gladly received his word were baptized, and the same day there were added unto them about 3,000 souls. That was the beginning of the church in Jerusalem. Well, let's just say, if you've made it to this part of the podcast, congrats, you stuck with us. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, this part of the podcast is basically just, where we say thank you and talk about some of the other stuff we got going on. So, the first thing, obviously, we haven't talked about yet this podcast, Joe, is Joe's Joe from our good friend Joseph Miller. What do you think of Joe's Joe coffee?
It is very good. We tried it several times. I think you should go try it out if you haven't tried it yet. Help some people out. Us and him included, so that would be helpful. So
yeah, helps you stay awake during college and when you're editing podcasts late into the night.
It's so very true.
Every day this week.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I know, dude. That's what I get to do tonight.
Yeah, lucky you. But
then hey, it'll be done Saturday, so I can sleep.
It's true. Saturday. Oh, that's tomorrow. Oh no, so I'm already at like 44 hours today or this week at work. and it was great.
Nice.
And so tomorrow I go in for another 10 hours.
You working tomorrow?
Yeah, so I'll be at like 50-something hours.
Cool.
Like, so sweet.
54.
Coffee.
Nice.
That's
coffee.
the...
See, and this is how Joe keeps working.
It's
right?
true. Like
By
cups of
drinking
coffee. Like pots of coffee, honestly. So, get some JoJo coffee.
And, it should be Joe's Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be.
So, there you go. Joe's Joe. Affiliate link. No, affiliate promo code.
There you go.
Down in the description. Capital YAP15 at checkout. That's 15% off your first 2 purchases. We do get a little kickback.
Not much, but it is something.
That's about it. We make like a few cents.
It's the thought that
why
counts.
not, right? But anyway, so I just wanted to tell you all about Joe's Joe, and then we also wanted to talk about a new platform we were on called Fountain, which is very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say, I put us on there Wednesday night, and it is now, what is it, Friday night?
Yep.
Yeah, Friday night. We have received 123 downloads from Fountain. So if you're listening from Fountain, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. We're
You
also
may find this
on.
interesting. 380 downloads total. So
There you go.
that's pretty cool. You've brought us up a lot.
Yes.
So it's been awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta say one thing about Fountain. If you're on Fountain and you boost us, this is the section where we will read your comments.
Yes.
So feel free to do that. We'd love to hear from you because
we want feedback from all of you.
I don't know if you've heard people talk about podcasting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously. So maybe what you should do is go listen on Fountain.
There you go.
And then, there you go.
Yeah.
But
we're also on another platform. We just actually today. It's called Wisdom, and so go check us out there as well. And yeah.
But basically, what Wisdom is too, just so you know, is it's like a audio Instagram almost.
Basically,
that's how I've heard it described. So it's pretty cool. You should check it out. Wisdom would appreciate it if you check us out. We'd appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Just
that'd be great.
Another place you can think about. And then that brings us to Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
The best way, one of the best ways anyway, to know when our episodes are coming out is by following us on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow us at Young America Podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is.
Yep.
No, it's just Young America. Just Young America. Go find us on Facebook. It's the same thing on Instagram. We'll post clips from the recent podcast and tease the next ones. And we'd like to get some interaction, so we may put out some questions like, I don't know, what was your favorite part? Or, I don't know. We'll work on that. But we'd just like to get some interaction there.
Yeah.
Because we'd love to hear from you. It's a very quiet way. It's not like YouTube where you get comments all the time. It's, podcasting is kind of lonely, as they say. So, we would love to hear from you on Facebook. Go check us out on Wisdom. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
That's all I got, I think.
Yeah. Well, we also want to thank those that have been with us so far, that have been or have stuck with us. You've been a great crowd of people. So, there's that. You just look like you're deep in thought.
It's been a wild ride, obviously. If you listen through the episodes, you'll see we've been growing.
It has been.
It's
for
been
sure,
getting better.
For sure.
So,
first
we've
one
been learning to
really rough.
Do what?
The first one was really rough. Yeah, but yeah, we're getting better, I think. So, I also was just looking at the reviews on podcasts or whatever it's called, Apple Podcasts. We're like a 5 out of 5. So I'm like, sweet, we're so good. Not really, but at least people think so.
Yep.
So.
Oh, one thing I almost forgot. This is the first in a 3-part series.
Yeah, we're starting some new things here.
So you want to tell them about the next episodes, or you want me to tell them about the next episodes?
Well, I guess I can. So, the next few episodes are going to be a series of what we've already done. So, kind of like what we did is family church, and then the next one was going to be government. So we're going to do that one, and then after that, we're going to do a series of the family. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have like 3 or 4 episodes in that series or whatever, and so yeah, we're working on some new things, and it's going to be a lot of things going on, but it's going to be fun. So stay tuned and tell your friends.
Yep. And then the next couple of months will be a continuation of this episode, because we recorded for an hour, but we didn't think anybody would want to hear an hour of us talking. So you'll hear the next couple of episodes will be on church, and then so the first one's going to be sort of the history of Catholicism, and then the next one will be today's church and the issues that it faces today.